Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today, let's talk The Walking Dead, issue 153. Alright, this was a good issue. One thing I want to talk about before we get into what actually happened is the fact that the story is so splintered because we have so many different characters. There's different communities, there's the heroes and the villains, or I should say the survivors and the villains, and even the survivors have different communities, and even in those communities there's different splinters of groups of people. And although I understand some people might just be like, okay, enough with that, or I don't care about this, but I enjoy seeing little bits and pieces of everyone's story all throughout the issue. So that was one thing that I really enjoyed. And another thing, it feels like you get a lot more story. When you get 1, 2, 3 pages of, Alexandria, something specific, and then 2 pages of something over here with Negan, and then 1 page of something over here with the Saviors, it just feels like there's a lot more story flowing back through it. I'm like, yeah, this was a good read, Speaking of a good read, and speaking of the story inside, let's jump to probably one of my favorite page-turning scenes in this issue. Not a death, nothing shocking, but damn was it refreshing. Wait, is refreshing the right word? I don't know. But in this issue, Brandon gives Negan his jacket back, and when you flip the page, bang, you see him putting a jacket on, and it was something where I was like, man, I miss Negan. Not prisoner Negan. This is Negan because he has the look, the haircut, the jacket, even the knife strap to him. He's got that look, and I have definitely missed that look. Now, Negan did in fact sneak out with Maggie in the group, and the first thing I thought of when Brandon snuck off into the woods to give Negan the jacket is, man, if Maggie ever finds out, she's gonna flip shit. She's not gonna be mad at Rick, or at least not now. I can't think of it. Maybe she will be. She could be like, you should have just killed him when you had the chance. But knowing that as she's traveling, Negan is somewhere back there in that caravan of carriages and people walking in on horses, and then he split away from her, just knowing he was free and he was that close is probably just going to give her chills, give her, the sweats, because she'll probably be so pissed just knowing he was that close. Yeah, I think she's going to flip shit. But we got Negan, and we got his wonderful dialogue, and especially when he talks like a dick, but it's an honest dick. Sometimes we really don't have to try to figure out what Negan's thinking, like when he says, I'm sorry I get so insensitive, especially around people I really don't like. I love this shit. However, he's still a mystery, though, let's be honest, because he did admit in the final cliffhanger of this issue, the final pages, he was like, well, that was your plan, and then he kills Brandon. And a lot of us talked about him killing Brandon. I think we all seen it coming. We all knew eventually he would get there. There's a chance he wouldn't have killed him because, I don't know, maybe he had something else in mind, but even in predictions, we just assumed that Brandon's blood was this on the cover. And I'm still kind of convinced that this was symbolism for that. It could be symbolism for not just Brandon. You know what? I'm going to change my mind right now. I think unless they show something different, I think this image right here is symbolism for what happens to Rick in this issue, because the blood that's shed in this issue, that's on Rick's hands, and we'll get to that in a minute. But with Negan being an enigma, so to speak, yes, he's obviously thinking of some diabolical scheme, but what is it? At the moment, I'm not really sold on the fact that he's going to just join the Whisperers and attack. So I don't know what Kirkman's doing there, but I'm not sold on the idea. I am more likely to believe that Negan, Michonne, and Aaron will eventually cross paths somehow. Maybe Michonne and Aaron get attacked and Negan helps them fight. Maybe that's just my bias, trying to get Negan to where I don't see him with the Whisperers like that, especially if he gets there and they're just raping kids. I can't see Negan being like, because listen, Negan just killed a kid, Negan doesn't give a shit. But for whatever purpose there is that code with him, maybe that code has a lot to do with business, because he did say, especially when it came to rape, maybe it wasn't a code for all time. Maybe it was just simply, we don't rape because we're going to be doing business with these people. But that's a fine line, because you kill their people and you still do business with them. So it gets tricky. But right now, up until I make the prediction video for what's coming next. I'm on the fence with Negan. I'm just not sure what he's up to. I have a couple ideas. I think I got a handle on where he's going with this, but I'm not sure. But let's move on to Eugene. I want to throw this in here quick. We do bring up the radio from time to time. This is definitely going to play a part in the story, and we got confirmation in the letter hacks. For everyone predicting that Eugene is just hallucinating this like Rick's telephone, remember in a few issues back I was like, I'll give up. That is such the worst idea in the world, and I do apologize if you like that idea, but it's too similar to something Kirkman already did, and that already was a stretch, like showing someone's broken mentally. Well, Kirkman in the letter hacks was like, I would be the hackiest hack of all that has hacked if I did that. So he says twice in 2 different letters, this is officially real. This is happening. It is another person. So fear not. It's not in his head. But the cover, I want to jump back to that before I forget. We'll also talk about Eugene later on. We got plenty of time. Right now, I don't know who the hell he's talking to. But I'm going to think about it. The cover, what I'm talking about the symbolism for this cover, and I feel strongly at this moment that's where they're going with this. Was it Marco? Shit. Marco from the Hilltop. He got shot in his leg by Paul. I believe the guy is... I don't recognize the guy from anywhere, but maybe a new character at Alexandria. And when Rick is questioning him, like, what were you thinking? Why the hell did you do that? See, Paul thought he was a whisperer, so he shot him in the leg, and he said, grab him, da-da-da, and Jesus stopped him from injuring him anymore. And Rick is like, why the hell would you do that? And Paul said, well, I kept seeing those signs and it drove me nuts, or drove him paranoid, and he got scared. And they did a close-up on Rick's eyes as if Rick was like, oh shit, this is my fault, And when Rick was standing up, he was like, listen, we don't know what we're going to do with you yet, but it's not going to be anything bad. And then he goes to walk away, and he gives him that look in the door. Now, with the way they're drawing this, that's what I'm coming up with. This is Rick, realizing that this blood that was shed is on Rick's hands. Because remember, just an issue or 2 before, he was like, paint that on the wall. Silence the whispers. I want them to see it. I want them to, know it's out there. I don't want them to forget. I want them to be afraid. And I believe that's exactly what Rick said. And because they were afraid, this guy Paul specifically, he shot somebody who was helping them. He shot someone who is friends with them, who works with them. He shot a good guy. And I think this is what the cover symbolizes, that the blood that was shed in this issue is on Rick's hands. And that is really cool symbolism, if that's where they're going. You let me know if you think that's about right, but I feel that's pretty close. Another thing I want to talk about is Dwight. Dwight is moving up in ranks as one of my top characters. I think if I made a top 10 list, Dwight would definitely be on it. But what was so cool here is we get to see him with Lucille. And I just want to put this out there, hint, hint, Skybound. Dwight in this army uniform with Lucille would make a pretty cool 5-inch action figure to go along with the other figures you got coming out. So make it happen. Anyway, listen, that was a cool little moment they put in there with Lucille, because Dwight has a purpose now. He gave it a purpose. Before he was just carrying it around, maybe because, I don't know, they're selling Lucille merchandise. It has that feeling. I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, But I'm just saying, if you just have things like that around, yeah, it loses its purpose, kind of. But with Dwight admitting, no, this bat symbolizes something bad, and I want to change that. I want to change what this bat means, and I don't want it falling into the hands of someone at the sanctuary, and another savior can rise and think this is the bat to lead them all. So again, love how they put that in there. And with Dwight and that army crew, we get Magna and her group. Now, Connie and Kelly, they are unsure. Well, they straight up said that they believe they're just cannon fodder out here. You know what I mean? What are we here fighting for? And I love how Magna steps up and she's like, listen. And again, this is a little moment they threw in there. And it's nice that we get this little moment with Magna, because we want more. We want eventually Magna's story to have a deep purpose. Why? Because, and this might be superficial, but it's because we entered this new beginning with her. I feel like it is incredibly important to give Magna something important story-wise. And I strongly believe that because, again, we entered the new beginning with her. Much like we entered The Walking Dead, the world of The Walking Dead, through the eyes of Rick Grimes. We entered this world with him, and we've seen a special story with him. And I'm not saying Magna has to take over, but she needs something special. She can't just be a character that does a little bit and dies, in my opinion. They need to do something with her character. And showing her step up with her own crew and say, shut that shit down, which is funny because Negan just said that in the finale that just aired, where Glenn was like, no, don't do it. And he's like, if you do that again, I will shut that shit down. So it's funny. I wonder if that's just a coincidence or not. Probably not. Anyway, and I would just love to see more with Magna. That's all I'll say about that. But moving on to Aaron, yes, unfortunately, this is an awesome cover, 154, but unfortunately it is Aaron on the cover. Damn, I was really holding out hope that would be a new character, and I don't get it now because Kirkman did talk about, I looked it up again, he did talk about a new character on the cover where he said, Charlie, write this new character, and oh, by the way, he's going to be important in a few issues, so give him, some kind of design. And we haven't gotten that yet, and that was months ago where he gave that. I'm going to have to look back through the covers, but I'm not seeing it. So maybe they abandoned that cover. I don't know. Maybe he's talking way ahead because they did show something very cool with this cover. They did show that they used some kind of old standard. I skimmed the article, but nothing really absorbed into my brain. But it looked cool as hell because they make this and there's imperfections and then they flip it or some shit like that. And it takes 3 months to get one cover. So if it takes 3 months to do one cover, and that's it, for real, 3 months to do one cover, that would actually mean there's still time for them to be talking about this cover, because if it takes 3 months, and this was a few months ago, like 2 months ago, 3 months, yeah, they could actually have handed in the cover, so we just haven't seen it yet. If another month or two goes by and we haven't seen it yet, then chances are they might have skipped that cover, or he was using that as an example, and he didn't mean, like, actually really they were making that cover. I don't know. Anyway, it is Aaron, and we could tell because even though he has that striped shirt that he always wears when he's talking to Rick, later you see the striped shirt, and over it he has the button down, and you can see the pockets here. That pocket right there on the button down is the same one as that pocket right there. It's the same one. I just wanted to confirm it and match it up because, again, I was really hoping. But now we know Aaron is out there with Michonne. This is the next issue where, don't miss the next issue, Aaron and Michonne are out there. And Negan is also out there, so don't forget that. We have the Whispers surrounding them, so this could be something where they're either going to collide, possibly where Negan helps Michonne and Aaron and says, listen, just leave me the fuck alone, I'm doing my own thing, just to get him off his back, which I don't think that's going to happen. I don't even know why I just said that. Or Negan, I just want him to fight the Whispers, okay? I'll admit it. Or Negan, he doesn't even have to group up and ally with Rick. He just has to fight the Whispers. Or Negan kind of gets along with the Whispers temporarily to tell them, hey, these guys are following me, attack them, and I'll prove that I'm not with them. Because keep in mind, this is one thing that is confusing me about Negan's plan. If he is, let's just say he is going to the Whispers, does he have a plan? Because if he doesn't, I would not trust him. I would probably shoot him and leave him to bleed out, because if someone came up to me after I just started a war, pretty much, and they said, hey, I don't like these guys, so I'm going to join with you, trust me, I would kill them. So I don't know what Negan's thinking. So if he gives Michonne and Aaron up to prove that he's not with them, then I can understand where the story's going. I could be like, okay, I understand. But if Alpha just believes him right off the bat, I'm going to be like, is Alpha really a good leader to follow? Because she seems like an idiot. Anyway, predictions will come, and also do not forget, starting next month, I believe it's next month. They're going to be doing Negan's 4 pages of Negan's backstory, and I will throw this in here. Remember when I said they showed his cut way back when they washed him up, and it could be the Whispers, and that'd be such an awesome way to connect it. Well, it looks like that is never going to happen. However, that scar might actually be connected to the backstory, which has now got my attention. Which has now increased my interest even more. With the scar with the Whispers, it could be a little too convenient, but if they throw that scar in there in this issue, and then we go back in the backstory and we find out the origin of that scar, I think I like that a lot better. So, we might just see Negan get wounded in his backstory, which left him with that scar, and it might play a big part in his backstory. So I'm looking forward to that. I do like that a lot better now than the Whispers thing. So let me know what you think. Also, the prediction video for 154, that's coming up shortly. So stay tuned for that. What are your thoughts and opinions about this issue? Put those down in the comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.